Keith Urban's insecurity in relationship to Nicole starts from the bottom. Look at his platform shoe.
An insecure man will ruin your life.
I thought she was way out of my league. Not in a million years did I think somebody like that would be interested in me.
You're going to be spending your whole life building up that insecure man, and he's going to resent you for it. He repays her having a younger girlfriend to feel like a man again, to validate all the shit that he can't validate for himself. As he's insecure, nothing is going to fill that void, that hole.
I said, "Are you cheating on me?" And he said, "What the fuck? Are you crazy?" He said he did it because he's very insecure, and he is very insecure, but I don't think that's a reason to cheat.
When a woman saves a man or unconditionally sticks by her train wreck destructive mess of a husband through thick and thin, no matter what shit he throws at her, it rarely ever ends up with her living happily ever after with this guy, or the two of them holding hands walking into the sunset together. A lot of the times it ends up with her being punished, because sometimes he will start to resent her, not because she did anything wrong or not because she's hurting him in any way, but because he can't quite figure out why the fork she even likes him to begin with. So this is something called the stray dog theory, and it's basically the story of what happens if you take in a wounded man and you try to nurse him back to health, only to find out that he will bite the hand that feeds him. So through a lot of like media, film, culture, whatever, we've kind of been taught to romanticize the woman who will endlessly forgive and unconditionally will endure and will stick by her man no matter what BS he throws at her, no matter what shitstorm he creates in the relationship, and no matter what trauma he is causing her. A man who cannot metabolize or even hold his own shame will make you carry it for him, and then he will hate you. When a man knows deep down that the woman that he's with is way out of his league, eventually his inferiority complex will come to the surface. Underneath that surface layer of shiny happiness and love, maybe he's always secretly comparing himself to her. Maybe he's living in fear that one day she will see him for exactly who he is. And maybe it's only a matter of time before she figures out that he doesn't deserve her. I am talking about Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban, and specifically I want to talk about the very start of their relationship. And yeah, it's interesting. So we will speak about that. So they obviously announced their divorce over the last like 10 days or whatever, and a lot of stuff has come out that I find interesting and I want to talk about it. This dynamic also, this like stray dog dynamic also applies to the wizard Liz, who I also am going to be speaking about. But if you don't know who the wizard Liz is, she is like an influencer. She's huge on TikTok, huge on YouTube, and she gives this kind of like no bullshit, kind of really blunt advice to women about not putting up with shit from men and expecting more and holding yourself to higher account and hiring your standards and like empowering yourself and all of this kind of advice to help women like elevate their lives or whatever. So it's not necessarily my flavor of content, but I am aware of who she is, and I am aware of her story and what's happened to her over the last year and a half. So we're also going to be talking about her. But yeah, let's start with Nicole, and let's start with Nicole and Keith, and let's talk about the start of their relationship specifically. I'm not very big on celebrities. I don't keep up with celebrities. I don't really know, but I do find this one very interesting just because of the shit that he put her through at the start of the relationship. And also there's a thing in their relationship. Anyway, we'll get into it. Okay, let's start with Keith and Nicole. So just a brief history of Nicole and Keith, because I actually don't really care too much about the celebrity of it all or the gossip or whatever of the whole situation. I kind of just wanted to talk specifically about the start of their relationship. They met in 2005 and they got married in May 2006. So in the very early stages of their relationship, in the first 4 months of their marriage, Nicole had to stage an intervention for Keith because he was wildly out of control. He was an addict, he was an alcoholic. And from what I've seen, allegedly, women have come forward claiming that he was cheating on Nicole with them. So I'm going to say allegedly he was having affairs. Like, okay, so he met this amazing woman, got married to her, and then blew up the relationship basically within the first couple of months of their marriage. He stayed in this treatment, I think it was the Betty Ford clinic, for 3 months. And in his own words, he said that he had addictions that he had done nothing about. So he hadn't at all taken any responsibility for any of his destructive patterns or his addictions or whatever. And he blew the marriage to smithereens. They had 2 daughters together. They have 2 daughters together, Sunday and Faith. And in 2005, after 19 years together, the 2 of them, they filed for divorce. There's also allegations now that he's like with someone else and stuff. But anyway, as I said, I don't really care about like the gossip of it all. I wanted to talk about one thing specifically, the cocaine or the sobriety clause that was in their prenup. So there's this clause in their prenup, which is referred to as the cocaine clause or the sobriety clause. And it basically means that Keith Urban would receive between 600,000 or 800,000. I can't find the exact number, but something ridiculous. That much money off Nicole per year of marriage, as long as he remained sober or abstained from alcohol and drugs. So over the course of their 19-year marriage, that could be somewhere between like 11 million and 17 million dollars. The thing about this cocaine clause is Nicole would have to prove that he wasn't sober. Keith doesn't have to prove that he was sober. She would have to prove that he wasn't sober. I heard a lawyer talking about that. The thing that I think makes this like this is the quintessential stray dog. You're taking in this broken man who has allegedly cheated on you, blew up your marriage to smithereens in his own words 4 months into your marriage. This is like early days. You've only known each other for a year, and you have to bribe this man like a baby to get him to act like a decent human. I'm sure she paid for the 3-month stay in the clinic as well. But she has to act like a mommy to this guy who is insisting on blowing up not only his life, but her life as well. You got to bribe him with millions and millions and millions of dollars in order to get him to behave himself. And this is kind of what I was referring to at the start of the podcast when I say like through media and through like social conditioning or whatever, people were praising Nicole for sticking by him no matter what, like ride or die, like through thick and thin, no matter what shitstorm he was throwing at her, no matter what trauma he was causing her, no matter how much money he was costing her, no matter the mental toll, the emotional toll, the psychological toll, the physical toll, the financial toll of dealing with this man who is not behaving like a husband, not behaving like a decent human in any way. No matter what the toll it's taken on her, people were still congratulating her for sticking by him. There's also this weird thing that happens as well in relationships, and I just want to talk about the therapy of it all or the psychology or whatever. People think we've been through so much together. That makes us stronger. By going through like tough times in your relationship, that makes you a stronger couple. Let me just tell you something. So if you go through tough times as a couple, but it's something external to the relationship. So for example, a family member dying, your landlord kicking you out of your house and you need to find new accommodation, a health scare, or you had your eye on a home that you're trying to buy and then it fell through and now you're heartbroken because you both wanted to buy that home. Those are all like real, losing your job, like those are all real world stressors that are external to the relationship that nobody in the relationship has inflicted on the other person. When you go through things like that together, you do get stronger as a couple. But this thing, like, we've been through so much together. Have you been through so much together? Or is one person in the relationship putting you through so much? You don't get stronger from that. You do not get stronger from that. Your relationship gets fractured from that, especially if it's repeated over and over and over again over time. You don't get stronger from that. That does not make a healthy, strong relationship, because the problem is coming from inside the relationship and it's repeated. So I just want to say that if anyone is in a relationship and you think, we've been through so much together, have you actually been through so much together, or is someone putting you through so much? Those are two different things. There's also been lots of interviews where Keith will flat out refuse to talk about Nicole. And let's just watch a few videos actually about him kind of refusing to talk about Nicole. Like, there's a part of me that kind of understands on a little bit of a level. Like, if you're trying to talk about your music and people keep asking you about your wife, I understand internally why maybe you could potentially feel like, I just want to talk about my music. However, why don't you want to talk about your wife and how amazing she is, first of all? Because every time Nicole is asked about Keith, she will like gush about him. And on some level, Keith would have to accept and acknowledge the fact that Nicole is the bigger star in the relationship when it comes to the media and the public eye. Like, Nicole is an A-list celebrity, and I never even heard of Keith Urban before Nicole married him. I know he's famous in Australia or whatever, but he is not at all like an A-list worldwide celebrity, whereas she is. So on some level, he not only would have to feel really grateful for Nicole for like boosting his career and getting his name out there worldwide, but he would have to acknowledge that, of course, if I'm doing interviews in the media, people want to drop Nicole's name, and that will only benefit him as well, you know. But he obviously doesn't see it that way. He obviously got so sick of having to talk about Nicole, where that should kind of be part of the deal. Also, if you love your wife and you think she's amazing, why would you not talk about her for 60 seconds in an interview and then move on to the next segment? Why can you not gush about your wife and all the amazing work that she's doing and congratulate her for literally working so hard? I went through Nicole Kidman's IMDb because I was like, did she take a break from acting while she was with him? Because then I was like working under the theory of like, I wonder, now that she's been working so hard over the last few years, I wonder, did he have a problem with her kind of returning back to doing all these movies and all of these TV shows and stuff that she's been doing lately? And was the relationship only good when she wasn't out in the public eye as much? But no, she has literally not stopped working at all. Her CV is impressive. Her IMDb is, she has not stopped working at all. So my theory of him just wanting her to not be in the spotlight and only being happy when she was not in the spotlight as much, that's wrong, because she has not stopped working ever. So let's watch a few interviews, or let's watch a few videos.
I interviewed Keith Urban about a year ago. For those who don't know, he's just split from Nicole Kidman. And when we spoke, it was very clear that the poor guy was totally sick of being asked about his much more famous wife. Up until then, he was charm personified, happily talking about music, his friendship with Taylor Swift, who supported him early in her career. But there was this one topic that raised a shield, and that was Nicole. She famously staged an intervention that saved his life from alcoholism just 4 months after their wedding, as he said in a song, "Thank You." When I brought up that intervention, he looked me in the eye and he snapped, "I just don't want to give you guys a headline about my wife," he said. He never lost his cool, but there was a deep sensitivity underneath that brush off. He knew the drill. He talks about his career, I talk about his global star wife. You know, that was the deal. It was transactional. And the brutal truth was, he was right to be sensitive. Without Nicole, I wouldn't have been there. The reason we were interviewing him was because he was married to her, and his marriage undeniably boosted his success and his sobriety. He knew he owed a part of his story to her. The last straw came at the very end of our interview. I asked if he was proud of her. One last attempt, and he said very, and then shut it down with a level of frustration that I won't forget. "We've had the best conversation," he said, "and at the very end, you're going to give one more swing to see if I'll talk about my wife. I'm not going to talk about her." That snippiness wasn't about the media, it was about the burden, I think. A decent bloke struggling under the weight of a strange world where his life and his career were constantly framed by his wife. Having to acknowledge that debt over and over again, you can see how it would take its toll. Maybe the signs were there a year ago.
And like, that's the thing as well, where that's such a big part of the Keith Urban story, that his he went on Oprah Winfrey and he talked about how Nicole saved his life and he blew up their marriage and he wouldn't be alive without her and all this kind of stuff. That's such a huge part of Keith Urban's story. So when he's being asked about it, because it's an interview where we have to ask you about yourself. Yeah, we're going to ask you about your music, but like realistically, not that many people care about that. Like most people care about your wife. Most people care about your story, and they want to talk about it. They want to hear you talking about it 20 years later. And that's just kind of the way it is. Like, do you think in these celebrity interviews that people aren't going to ask questions about, it's just kind of part of the deal. So in December 2006, during Keith's rehab stay, model Amanda Wyatt made claims that Keith had cheated on Nicole multiple times with her leading up to their June 2006 wedding. I feel sorry for Nicole. Keith cheated on her repeatedly with me, right up to just before they got married. So that was in 2006. In September 2007, in a tell-all interview for Vanity Fair's October 2007 cover story, Nicole opened up about supporting Keith through his rehab stint. I've learned an enormous amount about having a relationship with someone who is in recovery, she told the magazine. I'm more than willing to walk it with him. The two of us are very committed to our relationship. Later, she added, we were in a very, very bad, painful place, but we have managed to step through it. And I hope that gives some people some hope who may be in the same place. So again, this idea of we've been through so much together, but we're out the other side of it. I am not saying for 1 second that people should not be with anyone who's having any sort of issues. That's not what I'm saying at all. There's a level of abuse, mistreatment, betrayal, and disrespect that does not make you stronger by going through it. Does that make sense? I'm not trying to be like, oh, anyone who has a problem with drinking should be like completely wrote off. Anyone who has any sort of issue with anything should be wrote off. That's absolutely not what I'm saying at all. But there has to be some sort of toll that is taken on the other partner that has to be unacceptable. It is unacceptable to put people through shit because you are unwilling to deal with whatever you have going on. And people talk about his height as well and how he always wears these like huge platforms, or like, I don't know if he always wears them, but like he was pictured in them many times. And so it was kind of clear as well that he did feel inferior to her in that way because he was kind of always trying to make himself taller. And if we look at the very first photo that they ever took together, one sec, is it the first photo they took together or is it the first photo? I think it's the first photo they ever had taken together, and he appears way taller than her in this photo. So I always wonder, like, is that why he posted that photo? Is that why he chose that photo to post? And he appears way taller than her in this photo, and obviously in real life he's not taller than her. And I just want to say as well that like men make such a big deal out of height, like girls only want tall guys or whatever. Like, let me just say, like, no one has a problem with a short king. Any of the women that I know anyway, like, do not have a problem with someone who isn't like 6'5" or whatever. I think a lot of the times that I've seen and that also I have experienced, men have a problem with a woman who's taller than them. So I'm kind of a tall girly. Like, I'm not super tall, but I'm 5'8", kind of 5'9". So I'm not teeny weeny. I'm up there a little bit, you know, and I've met men who said something to me along the lines of, you all just want really tall guys. And I remember this one guy, and he asked me how tall I was. I didn't even bring it up, and I said, I'm 5'8". How tall are you? And then he said that he was just under 6 foot. That's what he said, under 6 foot. And I was like, okay, well, an ant is under 6 foot. Like, a cat is under 6 foot. I'm under 6 foot, like whatever. Anyway, so I didn't really care, but he was the exact same height as me, the exact same. So he was 5'8", and I didn't care. I didn't care, just to put that out there. But he started talking about his height, like girls always have such an issue with my height and blah, 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 blah. And then I was like, first of all, you asked me how tall I was. So it's like, would you be with me? Would you want to go on a date if I said that I was 5'10" and I was taller than you? And he said no. So, and again, I'm not trying to say that no woman on earth cares about height. Clearly, Nicole Kidman doesn't in this situation, but he did, because he felt inferior to her, not just in her height, probably in her beauty, in her success, in all of her accomplishments and achievements, and probably just in her, like, everything, you know. But I don't know. But it was very obvious that he felt inferior to her from the height. Clearly, it wasn't an issue with her. If she was looking for a big, tall man who was towering above her, she probably could have found it in someone else, but she didn't care. She wanted to be with Keith, even though he has those fucking highlights. So whatever, more power to you, girl, like, whatever. But I just wanted to talk about that as well. I'm not gonna like dig at him because he's a small man or he's shorter than her. She's very, very tall. I'm sure a lot of people are shorter than her, but I think she clearly didn't have an issue with his height, and he did. So I'm going to move on to the Wizard Liz and her ex-partner, Landon. So for those who don't know, Wizard Liz is a huge social media creator. She makes content basically telling women to stop letting men treat them like shit and to walk away and to have more worth and value and all this kind of stuff. So she kind of makes like high value woman content, which isn't my exact flavor of things that I like to consume or whatever. But I kind of don't like these terms like high value man, high value woman. I always get quote unquote high value men in my comment section telling me how ugly I am and how no man ever wants me or whatever. And let me just tell you, I don't really know. Whatever. What I do know, I'm not going to say I know the world of high value men or whatever. I don't want to, but I do know that a high value man is not in the comment section of some random girl's video telling her how ugly she is. That is what I do know. So anyway, the world of the high value woman or the like luxury woman kind of thing, it just implies that some women are less than, and it just kind of pits women against each other. Like, I'm a high value woman, so therefore there are women out there that are not high value. I think, and I think a lot of the times at the root of a lot of these like self-esteem issues, that's all it is how you see yourself, how you view yourself, how you view the world. If there's a woman out there who's letting a man treat her like shit, she probably just doesn't have high self-esteem, or she's traumatized, or she's stuck in a cycle that she can't get out of. It's not easy, or she has trauma that she is like unintentionally or unknowingly like repeating. It isn't like these women are just like pieces of poo on the street or whatever. So that's why I don't really like the like high value woman and like kind of like sectioning off women into different things. I don't really like it. I don't like it about men either. Anytime I see content about like high value men, yeah, the high value anything is just really annoying. I'm all here for empowering women. I'm all here for women choosing better for themselves, and I'm all here for women not being abused and not being treated like shit by men. And also the same, I'm here for men learning how to better themselves and learning how to improve their lives. And also in the similar situation, if there's a man out there who has really low self-esteem and he's being taken for granted or he's being abused by his partner, like, of course I don't want anyone to be abused. I don't want anyone to be in situations where they're being mistreated. But yeah, just the kind of like high value of it all or whatever. But let's look at a few of Liz's videos so that you can get a little sample of who she is and the type of content that she creates.
Like, you guys make it too big. You guys give too many chances to people that don't deserve it. Stop doing that, okay? If the roles reverse, those people will not give you the same chances. Do not date broke guys. Do not date guys that have no money, have no job. Do not date them. Now, what is a broke guy? A broke guy is a guy with no ambition, no drive. A man with ambition and drive will always have money. He will always find a way to have money, you know? But a broke guy that expects you to like give him money, that like doesn't want to do anything and feels like the whole world is against him and he cannot figure it out, whatever. Do not date these guys, okay? This is all fun and games. Like, a guy doesn't have to have money when you're in your teenage years. It's all fun and games, ha ha, blah blah. But when you are a woman over 21, okay, we all know what financial stress is, and especially when your man cannot provide anything. Me personally, I am not attracted to guys that have no money. I am simply not. I'm attracted to money. I'm attracted to power. I am attracted to a man that is in his masculine energy and is willing to provide and protect. That is what I want in a man. I am truly telling you, if a man is not willing to provide for me, I would much rather date a woman. I like to take care of the woman. I will go into my masculine energy and I will take care of a woman. Why? Because honestly, they're more beautiful to look at.
That's why I think it's very foolish to think of like, oh, why did they do that? I would have never expected them to do that. Oh, why didn't that job hire me? I didn't expect that. You didn't know them. You didn't know that person. You had a perception of them in your head, but that perception is not them. That's your experience with that person. That is not that person.
Money is not the most important thing. We shouldn't talk about money. We should talk about love. Delusion. You work every single day. You go to a job every single day, a 9 to 5 that pays you $2,000 a month. Yeah? You have maybe 2 weeks in your life free to go on vacation. You're selling your whole body for a job that tomorrow will replace you if you drop dead. You love money more than me because you're giving your whole life up for that.
So that's just to give you a little bit of a flavor of Liz and the type of content that she was making for a couple of years. She blew up really, really, really quickly. She's only posted 125 videos on YouTube, and I think she has like millions and millions of followers, which is amazing that she blew up so fast. But she ended up meeting this guy called Landon.
Say it's not a great message. It's honestly a toxic message. This thing I've seen people saying of like, oh, you can never trust a man, like never trust your husband, like he may just cheat on you, you never know. It's like at the end of the day, the man and the woman have to be trusting each other and taking that.
They kind of progressed really fast. There's lots of speculation about whether or not they got married or not, or if they were just dating or engaged or whatever. I don't really know. I don't really care. But anyway, she ended up getting pregnant. And while she was pregnant, she found out that he had been cheating on her. And I think, personally, cheating on your pregnant wife should result in jail time. Like, you need to go to jail. Like, you actually need to go into a... To put that amount of stress on anyone, full stop, is unforgivable. But to put that amount of stress on a pregnant woman who's carrying your baby, like, you have to be a special type of evil to do that. When we saw that with Adam Levine and Behati Prinsloo as well, when he was caught cheating while she was pregnant, and then he suggested to call the baby after the mistress, and she didn't even know. Look, what a mess. That's a whole different situation anyway. But anyway, so what happened with the Wizard Liz and Landon basically is this very successful, undeniably beautiful woman he's also a YouTuber, but he's way less successful than her. Way less successful. She's clearly gorge. I'm not going to say that he's not handsome or he's not attractive or whatever. I'm not going to like dig at him. However, she is 10 out of 10, stunning, perfect, angel, gorgeous, beautiful. And it definitely just seems like a very clear case of this man bagged this woman, couldn't believe or understand why she would ever want to have anything to do with a guy like him. So what he needed to do was humble her, take her down a few pegs by getting with other women. And that's what insecure men will do. They will validate themselves from other women, from the attention of other women. And they will end up punishing you and resenting you for even giving them a chance in the first place, because again, they can't understand for the life of them why you're even around them. And it's kind of this conditioning as well of like, I can fix him. No, you can't. No, you can't. You can support people and you can love people, but there has to be a limit. There has to be an unacceptable level of hurt or betrayal or mistreatment, or no level of abuse is ever acceptable. So let me just say that. But they're like, everyone fucks up and everyone has the potential to hurt us in some way. But if it's constant, if it's a pattern, if it isn't getting better, if this person is just insisting on like pissing all over you constantly, then it isn't it should never be glorified to just endlessly stay with someone and to endlessly put up with someone and turn into someone's manager or to turn into someone's mother. And it should never be acceptable to bribe someone with millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars in order to try and get them to behave like a decent man. So I think that's all I have for today. I just kind of wanted to talk a little bit of shit today because I'm going through it and I didn't really have the brain energy or whatever to do like a full deep dive on anything that required too much thought. I just have been following this story for a little while and I thought it was really interesting, and I thought that I could just kind of jump on here and talk shit for a little while and get something posted. But any hoodle, I will keep making videos. They might not be great, but it's fine. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the